and welcome to another episode of the Influential Nonprofits. I am very excited for today because I'm with my new best friend,
Hi,
Becky
bestie.
Endicott. I think that in a past life we must have been friends or something because we
100%.
are so aligned. And I can't believe that I have not met you or connected with you personally, like before. We connected a couple months ago.
It is shocking, especially when I feel like our brains are the same when we
Right.
hang out. So we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
Richie Kendall to thank for that.
Yes, who was on a couple weeks ago. And you are the We Are for Good. You're a founder of We Are for Good, co-founder and chief storyteller.
I am. Man, what a
What
wild ride.
Okay, I am really excited for our conversation. Before we get started, I always start with the same question, which is tell me something you're proud of that you don't get to brag about much.
Oh, that is a beautiful question. Um, Something I'm really proud of that I don't get to brag about much is how much my kids love to read. Is that really unusual response for you?
I feel like you just own whatever response that you
Yeah,
have.
there's so much in the world, and I am a huge fan of growth mindset, abundant thinking, and expanding my worldview and not being absolutely set in my ways. And I think I got some of that because I was read to quite a bit as a child. And when you're born in Oklahoma, it's a little bit hard to get outside of these crazy insulated walls. And was raised by these two hippies, and they really instilled this love of curiosity and reading in me. And so I felt my humanity grow the more that I read, and my worldview grow. And so when I had my daughters, we just had this through line of we're going to be reading all the time. We're going to have books and access to books all the time. And I feel pretty proud that I think I've raised some very empathetic, curious warrior women who are little, they're 9 and 13. But I've been able to see how reading is really translated to them being more compassionate, open human beings, which I think is really great foundationally. So nothing about work, more about my kids.
That's it. That's right. It doesn't have to be about work. It's all the same. Okay. One of my biggest philosophies is there's no work life and personal life. It's all the same.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
And how you show up one place is how you show up every place. And the idea of like, oh, I'm this way at work and this way, like when I teach people to, strengthen their boundaries and create new agreements. And like one of my clients was able to create better communication, boundaries, and agreements with her siblings around the care of her aging mom. You don't think that's going to translate to like creating new boundaries and agreements with the people that you work with and vice versa, right? It's all a thing. And I just have that, I don't know, that's the thing with me. Okay, we're not talking about that today. What we're talking about now, I coach and train people on the art of influence, enrolling people in a vision. But what we're going to talk about today was something that you work on at We Are for Good, which is stoking, which means like sort of like activating. I'm just going to call it like activating the fire in people. So I feel like it's taking the influence of enrolling people in a vision. Like, how do you do that? And then how do you do that on a bigger scale and through social media? So first, why don't you give probably a better explanation of what what stoking is, what we're going to talk about.
That was a beautiful explanation. And
Well,
I think that's what's so fantastic about influence is that we can interpret things in completely different ways. We can see it in different ways, but we're connected in the value, in whatever the belief is at the core. And so, after a couple of years of just recording all these podcasts on We Are for Good and building this community, we were noticing that people were posting a lot. They had a lot of really great content, but they were not getting the engagement that they wanted from it. And we were really starting to dive into that. And we realized that, by the way, we were missing this component of stoking because we really thought we had this really short and sound framework for how to build a movement. And it's all S's. There's the staging, where you're warming people to what's coming, and we know this fundamentally as fundraisers because we know all about the art of cultivation. And then it was really about storytelling. And then how do you tell that story? Once you have people's interest, how do you tell a story that draws people in? And then the third one, we thought it was the last one, was syndication. How do you take that content, all of that engagement, break it up into parts and socialize those parts all the time, whether that's a quote you're sharing or whether it's a video you're sharing, or maybe you have an impact report that is full of all of this rich detail that you send out one time, and you spend all this time working on this beautiful impact report. And we're saying, what if you broke apart every part of it? Quotes, pictures, CEO letter, board list, and made a conversation out of all of that. But then we realized it's not enough just to syndicate. You got to stoke. And so our concept of stoking, I thought yours is such a beautiful take on it, is really about how do you build authentic community? How do you create authentic engagement that leads to a movement? So stoking is getting in there and creating a conversation about what you want to talk about. And so how do we do that? It means when you're telling a story, when you're putting a social post up, you don't just put up a social post. You tag people in it, anybody who could be connected to that story, whether it's their quote or they served on that committee or you've seen them liking your things and you think that they might have an interesting opinion in this. You tag people in it. You show gratitude in it. You thank people who helped you get there. You put links to a further conversation. And once someone starts to engage with that post, that's when you start to stoke. Every comment needs to be responded to. And I say this in a way that I want to create balance for people, because I don't think there's enough balance and mental health care, that this doesn't need to be everything you're doing all the time. But if you have a team approach to stoking where everybody is a part of building a community, and PS, this stoking is super raw. And it's not buttoned up the way that we've always been taught. It's not robotic. It is human. It is emoji. It is slang. It is cheeky. And something happens when you start to do that. People feel seen. They feel like their voice is important. They feel like they are a part of belonging in a space. And all of a sudden, you don't even have to make it public. Slide into somebody's DMs and say, I really appreciated the way that you fed into this ideal. Thank you for caring about our cause. Like these 2 sentences, if somebody replies to your email that you sent out, reply back.
Right.
These are engagement signals. And we've just been hardwired for so long that the engagement that we're looking for is only the number. What can somebody give? But reality is that we're trying to move from thinking about how do we cultivate a donor to how do we cultivate a believer. That is a 2.0 level of thinking in this modern era, that believers bring more to the table than donors. And let me be clear that donors are believers, but believers also bring social capital. They bring social proof. They bring story. They bring lived experience. They bring a network that we can't get into because they have shared commonalities with people. They bring in so much more volunteerism, maybe gift in kind, whatever it is. And so stoking is a method by which you move from being really a passive sort of, you're a marketer when you just push out your information. All of a sudden, creating stoking is going to create a community, and it's going to be a symbiotic community that we're co-building together. Your voice matters, my voice matters, and the voices that we bring in are going to matter. And all of our collective efforts are moving our mission forward in a way that's authentic, vulnerable, safe, and real.
Yeah. Wow. Woo. That was like a TEDx talk right there. Thank God we're recording.
I get on my pulpit. Yeah. Woo. And then I have a hard time getting out.
All right. I want to just unpack a few things. My friend, Amy Fazio, I don't know if you know Amy Fazio. She says,
I need to know Amy Fazio.
People come, she's a community builder. People come for the cause. They stay for the community.
That's it.
And, and in my work, what I coach and train people on is, so you're talking about like the buttoned up, and we were taught pitch, you sell, you convince.
Yes.
And
case for support, case for support.
Yes.
I
know that's not me. Okay. Right. It's the people will buy to the level they feel seen and heard. And when you were talking about people feel seen, they feel like they matter. That's the important thing. Like, yes, our stories are important and their stories are important too. And how those stories connect, right, is the most important thing. And like, for me, this is, and I do see, and this out, let's just push out. Oh, post. There we go. And we got, instead of really engaging. And I feel like, that's one of the things I'm working on, because I don't do enough of that. Like, I have somebody who I
I
post,
don't
then I
either,
have somebody who
to
helps,
be honest.
right? It's like the cobbler, and it all has
Yes,
the
the
kids'
cobbler's kids have no shoes.
shoes,
It is
right?
totally that situation.
And I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, I do it, and I'm thinking, oh, right, maybe I should, eat my own cooking here. Like, actually, I mean, but there's always room for improvement. And I had a meeting yesterday okay, so I have a client, and uh, and we were meeting with like the big head cheese of the nonprofit, okay, who had not met me before. And there's some transitions happening, and she just wanted to meet, and I wanted to sort of solidify the relationship. All good. Anyway, she says, our Facebook is a little dull. And she said, like, this other organization is doing something that I think we should be talking about. I think we should be sharing that content. And I said, you're right. Also, that takes some, what we were talking about is releasing some things that they're doing that aren't really serving them, to make
Yes.
room for more things like this.
Yes.
Right. And that's what I'm going to be working with as an assessment.
Brilliant.
To figure out what we can let go of, because this takes some proaction. This takes opening up your computer and not saying, what am I going to share today, but how can I be of value? And I think part of the stoking too is posting on other people's, commenting on other people's stuff.
Yes,
being a part of
community member.
It's not just what I want to talk about, it's what are people talking about that I might add to a conversation, or I might, just do some witnessing and some validation of what other people are talking about. And I think it's I'm
giving her snaps. That's
and
the way it
because
works.
it's not just about, we have to push this content out. I feel like it's more of a pull, like I'm pulling people in. And and that's right. That's what I hope people build, like brands of attraction. That's what influences enrolling people in a vision, and they're choosing, they're excited. It's not I need to, I have to. It's like I choose, I'm excited, I get to. Whoa, and from that energy, that's what we create from. And so it's like, oh, I got to post this story, or we need content. It's like, and I want to go back to one more thing you said, because about like an annual report or piece of content, I feel like people are siloing their content.
Yes.
Right. Like I have a system, I call it the an hourglass, where I show people how you take like one story, and how you can take one story and make it video, audio, post, like whatever it is,
graphics, quote cards, like there's so
much you can do. And you can, and it's okay to repeat. It's like you can always watch that episode of Friends. It's the familiarity, you know what I'm saying? Like, totally. And I feel like there's this pressure, like new content. Oh, we already talked about that. Who cares? Like the way the algorithms work, people probably haven't seen that anyway,
Exactly. Unless, you hit it, if you're on Instagram, it's got to hit in the first 20 minutes, or unless it's a reel, it might get pushed up more. And I think you're so right, Marianne, because I feel the fervor. And I have to tell you, when I was in it for 20 years, I felt the fervor of just creating content fresh all the time. And I just want to take that burden off our nonprofit friends and say, there is another way. And I will also tattle on myself and say, I've got a public relations degree, I've got a marketing degree, and I was all about that outbound communication. I would get the story, I would interview the beneficiary, I would talk to all the people in the nonprofits, I would put this beautifully crafted story out there. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way, because the stories already exist. You just need to ask for them. So this generative approach rather than extracting approach is really interesting. And so even building in this culture of storytelling into your nonprofit and finding ways for people to give you that information, it's going to do several things. One, it's going to save you time, because the story's already written, in whatever language that it comes in. And I believe the more raw that it is, the more authentically it will connect.
Yes.
It's going to give you proof and a different lens and a different voice to how people interact and see your mission. And so that sort of cognitive diversity is a beautiful thing, because we don't want to all sound the same, because our communities are made up of a diverse group of people that look, sound, and have different lived experiences, and that needs to show. So just a couple of pro tips I would give, like even on your giving page, have a text box at the bottom that says optional. Why'd you give today? That could feed
Mm.
literally right into a Google document or a sheet. And right there, you have a story. One, you have a story, so you have content. Two, as a recovering major gift officer, I will tell you, I have somebody's why already.
Mhm.
I didn't even have to take them to coffee. I have their impetus of what's important to them. Three, I have a reason to reach out and say thank you and connect with this human and validate that story. There are so many endpoints. That was just one example. But if you can start putting links to stories, asking for stories from your community every time, sharing them, celebrating, uplifting them, I guarantee you they're going to share that story with their friends. Ripple, ripple, ripple. Here
Yeah.
comes more believers, more fans. And that is the authentic way that movements get built.
And I love that, just a simple little trick tool of tell me why you gave today.
Yeah. And people want to tell you, they're like excited to tell you why they love you. And
Yeah.
also, if somebody tells you why they're ticked at you, that is also a sign that I care enough to tell you, because I want you to make that right. And so I just think conversation, authentic, beautifully broken, the way that we are as humans, is a force, can be a force for connection and for good.
One of my coaches told me the more authentic you are, the more powerful you'll be. And that is because there's so much, I'm just going to say bullshit in the
There
world,
is.
right? And so people who are courageous enough, that's what courageous communication is about, to be honest, transparent, authentic, right? Show people the real story. It's like, I always look at it like a relationship, like a friendship. So if you and I were friends and all you heard was the amazing things I did, and I never wanted to show you any of the bad parts, you'd be like, come on,
We
right?
never
Like,
trust 5-star reviews on Amazon. Like, we wouldn't do that with humanity, right?
exactly. And I want to go back to something that you said, because I think this is really important, which is if you are saying something interesting, people like, oh, we want to be a thought leader. Okay, great. I don't hear that as much, but I used to hear that a lot, like 5-10 years ago. We
Yeah.
want to be a thought leader. Okay. And we want, so if you're saying something interesting, if you are putting, a stake in the grass, right? Like if you're claiming something, somebody's not going to like it.
Yeah,
And right. And so,
absolutely.
and that's okay. And
Mhm.
we've been terrified of criticism, right? Everyone must like it. It's like a person, like, oh, being that person where you have to just please everyone. It's exhausting.
It is so exhausting. And as a
Exhausting.
recovering people pleaser, like, I get it. And we need to let go of that perfectionism and scarcity in nonprofit, because it truly is holding us back, holding the mission back, holding growth back, and holding believers back.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And so in my world, I work with individuals and teams to claim that for themselves so they can like stand claim that for an organization. So if you're going to be a
Love
bold
that.
communicator, but inside you're terrified of criticism, that message is not going to work, because you're not going to stand behind it, right? You're not going to really embody it. And that criticism, that anger is a valid energy. Anger is welcome, because that means people care enough. That's an emotion, right? That's an emotional
100%.
connection.
And it's real.
And it's real. And so an organization here had a name change. And as all big branding name changes, things like that go, it's always, people get their feelings hurt because they love this organization and they remember it for what it was. And that's when we have to like really put on our empathy. It's hard to feel like something is changing and you feel left behind. And the higher ups were saying, we're so tired of, explaining this. And the people I'm working with, I'm telling them that is a gift.
Yeah.
That anger is a gift, because that means they
It's passion.
care. It's
Mhm.
passion. So if somebody is angry, at my sweet sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, because they are hell raisers, and they are like LGBT and ministering at the border and, ministry to people on death row. And the
God bless
people who
those
are
women.
donors remember them as the sisters that taught them. Right. And so when they say, here's what we believe, and then people are like, whoa, that's not what I believe. That makes them angry. That's pain. Like, it's hard. Like, and so meet those people with compassion and love, right? Not like, how can you not, right? Why can't you just get over it? Like,
100%.
meet with them, because that's engagement too. And I think we just fear that, right? Because you were talking about like navigating things and it's like messy and authentic. That is it. Just getting in there and being with people where they're at and helping them, process whatever's happening. They may stay, they may not. And either way is okay.
Yes, because we want them to find their safe community.
Right.
We want everybody to find the community and the spaces where they feel most seen. And I don't know if you're a Brene Brown fan. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan, but she has this quote that I'm probably going to butcher because it's long, but it's like, owning our stories means that we're going to acknowledge our feelings and we're going to wrestle with the hard stuff, like our shame, our fear, our anger, our aggression, the blame. And she says it's not easy, but like, what's the alternative? Denying our stories and disengaging from emotion? That means we choose to live our entire lives in the dark. It means no accountability, no learning, no growth. And we're just talking so much about like moving from that desire to be a thought leader to really stepping into being a change agent.
Yes.
And I know you
Mhm.
feel this, Marianne, like right now, like we're at such an inflection point in our sector, in the world, in the tech revolution, we're in the great resignation. Maybe we're past that now, but we're feeling the wave effects of that. People want to live, work, and connect in very authentic ways. And trust is the bedrock of that, because none of us know what's real. None of us know what's real when we're on media and online. We don't know who to trust. We don't know who's authentic. But when you do find those spaces, wow, you really, really glom on. And so we're really trying to make an effort to talk in our community about how do you step into being a courageous change agent? And what does that look like? And I want to compliment you so much for saying that it can't just be all about us and what we think. We have to be listening to other people. We have to be engaging with their thoughts and their content. We have to know our values and stand strongly for them, because we're seeing things on the front line of nonprofit. We're seeing harm, we're seeing injustice, we're seeing inequality. And who better to stand up and say, actually, we know how to navigate this, because this is our work. We are in the business
Right.
of compassion and of ruling out these systemic issues. And it's going to take some brave souls to say, this is reality. This is what we're facing right now. And here's how you can help us. And this is what our community is about. And the nonprofits I'm seeing that are doing that, they are building movements. They are
Yes.
not building KPIs.
Yes.
And those movements are the total long game play.
Yes.
For getting people in early on, making them feel seen, making every gift feel like it matters. Guess what? They bring their friends, they bring their family, they beat that drum, they do peer fundraising. They show up in so many ways that we could not even have imagined, because we spent so much time at the top of that donor pyramid cultivating that 1% that we pray does not ever step away from our organization.